Gareth A. Davis, you know how we do. Tradition is you tell us what you've been up to for the week. So go ahead. The floor is yours, my man.
Well, I've been clapping my hands and stamping my feet and jumping up and down since the last crescendo card was announced last night. I've barely been able to sleep. I'm so excited. As you say, Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker, Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol to headline that. That's will come to. I have been watching the sad demise of Sonny Edwards, but I'm pleased for him that he's taken the decision not to just have another fight to end his career like other people. His honesty is beguiling, frankly, and that was one of the great things about the last few days. I've been having a few back and forths with Carl Froch in the last week, um, which is all a bit of fun for me, and obviously the super troll that he is with his he's not Frotchlong fighting, and the Frotchlongs are very good. He's very honest about the fight world, and he's got very strident opinions. So I've had a little bit of batting back and forth with Carl Froch, both publicly and privately. And as a full disclosure, I love the guy, I love his career and what he does. Other than that, I've been getting ready to go to Dubai on Saturday night, for Friday night, and then the EVA conference on Saturday. I've got a little event I'm presenting Friday, so I'm just preparing for that. And really just starting to look ahead at Tyson Fury, preparing some pieces on him, spoken to people in his camp in the last few days. His weight is a very interesting thing under discussion at the moment. Will he be 19 and a half stone, 20 odd stone when he arrives in Riyadh, because they don't want him to be too light? So I've been
Mhm.
checking in with people in his camp, his strength and conditioning, his dietitian, and Spencer Brown, his manager, who I must congratulate, along with Eddie Hearn, George Warren, and His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh for announcing that card. I've had a regulation week. How about you?
Wow, that's a regulation week, and everyone else should just, I don't know, almost just retire because that's a busy week for me. That sounds like you've been doing a lot. Plus, let's not forget as well, I saw you in the talkSPORT Towers with your book. Um,
I did H&J in the book. That was fun.
yeah, see,
That
I remember what you're doing. You're so busy. I'm having to fill gaps in for you. You're so busy. But no, like you, I was super excited about this February 22nd card. But we're going to get to it. But I mean, when you look at the card, it's just it's almost not real. It's that good. You almost feel like this can't be true. Like you have to kind of squint your eyes again. Like, am I really reading that? I don't know. Callum Smith and Joshua Buatsi could walk first, and that somehow just appeared from nowhere. So look, incredible
Great
card,
fight.
great
Great
fight,
fight.
incredible fight. I was at the BP Pulse Arena, all these funny new names for arenas, on Saturday in Birmingham to watch, as you said, Sonny Edwards versus Galal Yafai. Disappointing main event, just because I think we all expected it to be the Bull versus the Matador, and somehow I don't know who's going to win, the Bull, the Matador. I think me and you both said last week that's a 50-50 fight. Clearly didn't play out like that. So that was slightly disappointing. And then getting ready, as you say, for December 21st, which is fast approaching now. What are we less than 3 weeks away from it, which is crazy.
Mm.
And then the trailer got dropped. The trailer got dropped. What did you make of it? I thought it was the best one yet, but I feel like I always say that. But I think this one just I think Tyson Fury could be an actor. He's got presence about him. I thought it was really good.
It reminded me of all the nightmares we have of each other when
Yes.
we're not getting on. It was brilliant. The dark sense of humour
Yeah.
that exists around these zombie movies and all these kind of this milieu, this nightmarish horror film milieu that maybe is under the covers with boxing. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, when I nearly jumped off my chair laughing when Alexander Usyk's face appeared on Paris Fury at the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was brilliantly conceived, and I found myself wondering, Eddie, if they put the picture board together and take it to His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh, and he's going, "Oh yes, yes, yes," or whether he says, "I trust you, just get on with it." It was brilliantly conceived, a lot of fun, and it kind of made up for the quietude, the silence between the two men from that press conference a few weeks ago, because it is so accurate. There is an obsession with each other right now that needs to be concluded potentially, or maybe augmented in Riyadh on December the 21st when it's all reignited.
I love the fact that they both sorry play along with it. I love the fact that you know they go to obviously the teams must go to Fury and say, okay, we kind of want you to play this role if you don't mind, and same to Usyk, are you okay? And they clearly both put thumbs up and okay, let's do it. Fine. Well, there'll be some boxers that are like, you know, I don't really want to do, but clearly they both go along with it, and I think that's what's really important here. Both superstars, and they're like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do. We're happy to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I need to verify this myself, but figures, when you're being paid the extraordinary sums they're being paid, that you're going to go along with it and buy into. I mean, I read some in the last couple of days, and I need to check this out, that Usyk's earning over 100 million for this
Yeah,
fight, and
yeah, I
that
saw that.
Fury's earning 60 odd. So it's when you're being paid those kind of sums, you need to turn up.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're right. You're right.
and
There is no no's from then.
exactly.
Everything's a yes, indeed. All right, let's we'll talk about that. Obviously, we'll both be out in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And when Tyson Fury fights in Saudi Arabia, it just feels like a different type of energy. So we'll talk about that in the lead up to it.
And
Let's
good news, by the way, if I can just throw it in there, that talkSPORT have got the rights as well.
yeah,
That's brilliant news that we're all out there for talkSPORT as well.
fantastic.
Telegraph and other people that I'm working for, but it's great news that talkSPORT have got those rights.
Yeah, and on that, and it's good that you mentioned that. Thank you. It's on that. I mean, talkSPORT promote these cars like none other. Like the amount of coverage that we give to these Riyadh season cards is, I think, as big as the lead broadcasters on them, if not bigger.
Yeah, it's
So
a big reach.
yeah, massive
It's
reach.
daily, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
not, and it's broadcast live, and all the shows are invested. As you know, we're doing hits into loads of shows while we're
it's
out there,
incredible.
as well
It's
as the
incredible.
podcast. Yeah, it
So
is.
so it's fully deserved. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Can't wait
yeah.
to
Well
see
done.
all the team out
Yeah.
there and jump in on a few things as well. All right, let's talk Sonny Edwards, Galal Yafai. Look, I have to admit, I was very, very surprised. There were some, and you know, everyone's like Monday morning quarterback where they pretend they knew what was going to happen. But there were some that were like, okay, no, I expected Sonny to retire. I was like, how? I saw Sonny a few months ago put on a really good performance against Kuriel and then call out Galal Yafai. Again, only 28. Yeah, I know he likes to smoke a little bit and live the life, but I mean, it's not held him back in performances thus far. So I was a bit surprised, but from the very first minutes, seconds of that fight, I knew which way it was going to play out. And that kind of surprised me a little bit, I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, but 5 years he's been at the top level in the game, going 12 rounders, uh,
Yeah.
world champion, 5 defenses of the IBF title, starting with Thomas Asomba, where he took the title, and he's given his all, and he was very emotional about that afterwards. That there's not a lot left there, and the big question the fight left was, how bad was Sonny on the night? How good was Galal? I flip flopped from when the fight was first announced. I first went for Galal. I thought his counter-punching, aggressive southpaw style would win him the fight. Then I thought about the fact it's only his ninth pro fight, and Sonny's got that vast world title experience and only the one major blemish really against Bam Bam Rodriguez. And I plumped for Sonny on points in the end, that he'd do that will o' the wisp thing,
Mm.
be very light on his feet and frustrate Galal. But the truth was he had no mobility. He once Galal pinned him the first couple of rounds, Sonny had to stand and trade. It showed, by the way, how tough he is, because he took more punches than I think we've ever seen him take.
Yeah.
In terms of volume in those six
Yeah.
rounds, it was mercifully stopped. But as I say, the debate will be now: is Galal capable of maybe going up to Superfly to chase the likes of Bam Rodriguez? But it was sad to see the end of Sonny, if I'm honest. But I don't think he'll be lost to boxing, because he's too big a character. You know, in character, he's 6'7", isn't he? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
not 5'3" or whatever as a boxer. And 28 isn't that old for a flyweight to stop either. So 30 would have 30, 31 is kind of old, starts to get old for flyweights, but it's a little premature, but he's just being honest.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we like it when fighters go out before they're thrown out of the sport, so to speak. So I'm with you.
Can't
And
play boxing, Eddie. You
no, no,
can't,
no, you
can
can't.
you?
And it's a good point you made as well. Because he doesn't have the punch power, he's having to go 12 rounds every single time, unless what happened on Saturday or what happened against Bam, he doesn't go the 12 rounds. What did you make of what was said post round two in the corner when he says, "Look, to be real, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here." Should the corner have pulled him out there and then when a fighter says that, or were they right to kind of let it go a few more rounds? Because he actually did get a little better towards the back end of the fight. But if a fighter says that, is it not your duty to say, okay, ref, enough's enough. Let's look after his safety here?
Well, in his post-fight interview with you, was it with you?
No, Jamie Ward in the ring.
With Jamie, he admitted that his corner knew this was going to be his last fight, win, lose, or draw.
Mm,
And I think because they knew that, you can forgive them not pulling him out in that moment.
okay.
But conventional wisdom would have said, it's certainly a big debating point, would have suggested that you say to your fighter, okay, we're calling it off. If you're saying that, because again, I go back to that phrase, you can't play boxing. You can get hurt, badly hurt, if you're not fully there. And he was fully there, though, like you say. He just didn't have the footwork. He wasn't fully focused on what his game plan perhaps was going to be against Galal Yafai. We can debate that till the cows come home. Thankfully, he has come out of it unscathed and unhurt. It was a merciful stoppage. He didn't throw anything back from those 20 odd punches that Galal was throwing in on him in the sixth. That's down to Sonny and his corner. He didn't complain about that afterwards. And maybe between the second and third rounds, he hadn't been hammered at that point.
Yeah.
Just in a dogfight already.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that because they know him better than we do.
Indeed. All right, let's hear from the man, Sonny Edwards. This is what he said post-fight, announcing his decision to call it quits.
I don't know, really. Galal started really fast. We knew he would, but if I'm perfectly honest, win, lose or draw, my team know this. Win, lose or draw is retiring tonight. I don't have the same energy that I had for the sport, for the process. I'll be perfectly real. I mean, I put so much in the first 6-7 years of my career that I just needed a break. I needed a break really before this fight, but I always want to compete at the best. And whilst I was the number one, I wanted to be involved in the biggest fights, the biggest events. But I knew. I said the whole way that it was going to be hard tonight. But Sonny Edwards from 12 months ago would have got longer than 6 rounds. I'll be real. I don't fully agree that the fight got stopped when it stopped, but he was throwing a lot and I weren't responding with a lot. But I didn't feel ridiculously hurt in there. But once Galal starts letting his hands go, it's hard to get away from him.
Sonny Edwards, their former IBF flyweight champion, saying enough's enough from the sport. And look, he'll be in and around the sport. He's been on the broadcast a few times. Fantastic speaker. He manages and trains a lot of fighters. He looks after fighters like Ishmael Davies, who's doing really good things as well. So Sonny will be around the sport. And I think that's what probably makes the decision easier for him. The fact that he's going to be in boxing as opposed to just not knowing what next. He knows what he's doing next. So I always feel like when fighters do call it quits and there's nothing else out there, that's when they return. That's when they have 1 or 2 more fights that they shouldn't. I think the fact that he knows he's got the next few years secured, I think he's okay.
Do we want to see him fight his brother?
Oh, God. Oh, God. No,
But
no,
I
we
always
don't.
thought we'd see that fight, Charlie and Sonny, but maybe that's impossible for brothers. No, he's got a future in the sport. He's already looked good on the broadcasts. I'd like to say he's done in terms of fighting, but he's certainly got a future in the sport, and he'll be able to carve his way through it. I hope he opens a gym as well, his own gym, because I'd like to see that.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't start his own promotional company. Honestly, I
Maybe,
expect to see Sonny Edwards Promotions
yeah.
very, very soon and sign a few fighters up in the Sheffield area or even South London, where he's from in Croydon. All right, you're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Still to come, we will discuss what the future holds for Conor Benn. Now he's clear to fight. Will he finally fight Chris Eubank Jr., though? I don't think so. We'll also look ahead to our live coverage this weekend, the Magnificent Seven card at Wembley Arena. But up next, only one place to go. Daniel Dubois looks to set to defend his title against Joseph Parker in what could be the most stacked Riyadh season card to date. In fact, go one further, the most stacked card to date. That's coming up. Welcome back. You're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, late Monday night, I think all fight fans got the Christmas present, the New Year's present, the Valentine's Day present, every present that we've ever wished for, because we got the full announcement of the February 22nd card. And look, I'm gonna go to you on this one, Gareth, straight away, because you've been covering the sport way longer than I have. You've been around all these big events. You remember the Don King events of the 80s. I said this is the best fight card that I've ever seen. But again, my memory doesn't go back to the 80s and maybe early 90s. You've seen them all. Is this the best fight card that you've ever seen?
Well, I think when you look at the overall picture from it, in terms of the balance of what it's got, I think you have to say that when you start from the bottom up, you've got a real British classic, which may have been lost to all time with Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. Like that's an O2 Arena 20,000 event just to start the cards. Is that fair?
Yeah, fair. Agreed.
Then Zhile Zhang and Agit Kabayel, you're looking at 5 and 7 in the world in boxing terms. So that sells out the bird's nest in Beijing, if you're looking at it, or in Shanghai at a big stadium. Virgil Ortiz and Israel Madrimov. Oh my words! Oh my days! Ade Oladipo. That is a headliner in Los Angeles. Okay. Carlos Adames and Hamza Shiraz, the young pretender of the middleweight division against a very slick fighter in Carlos Adames. That's a world title fight. Again, that's an O2 Arena sellout or an American blockbuster main event. Shaka Stevenson, top 10 pound for pound against Floyd Schofield. That's the only fight you can perhaps challenge a little bit, and Schofield's selling himself at the moment. Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker. That's a football ground fight if you sold it right in the UK. And then Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol doesn't sell anywhere, but it does in terms of massive amounts of fans. But it's the trade fight. I mean, what an extraordinary card. Yes, for me, that is the strongest card. That's fantasy fight making right there. And while people were teasing it in the last couple of weeks, and we're going, well, can we talk about if this was the card? Because we all kind of knew what they were bringing together. I was going, if 4 of these 7 that they're talking about are on there, then we're in for an absolute barn burner. And we're here. And it's unbelievable. Maybe one of them will fall off with an injury or whatever, but there's no, I don't know. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Please discuss Mr. Oladipo.
Yeah, I mean, look, you sold it well there. I mean, I agree. I mean, look, any fight card that has potentially, I don't know if the order is going to be this, but Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith walking first.
Yeah.
That's your first fight. It's not a 6-rounder, not an 8-rounder, not a Southern Area title. Your first fight is 2 highly skilled world level 175 pounders walking out. And as you said, Zhile Zhang, Kabayel as well. I mean, and then it's world titles, isn't it? I mean, then it's just world titles all the way from there, pretty much, isn't it? I mean, Virgil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov is scheduled to fight Boyashuk as co-main event on the Fury Usyk card. So I just assumed that he now pulls out of that. Eddie Hearn has confirmed, no. He's going to fight Boyashuk, and then he's going to turn around and fight Virgil Ortiz, which I just don't see if it happens. I just don't see how that happens. So hopefully there is a replacement.
2 months, isn't it? It's 2 months.
Unless he just knocks Boyashuk out in the first couple of rounds, I just don't see how it happens. So hopefully there is a replacement for Virgil Ortiz just in case. But I mean, honestly, it's an incredible card. One thing I want to get to before we talk about the card properly in its entirety. It was rumored to be Virgil Ortiz boot tennis. And now a lot of people are saying boot tennis has ducked Virgil Ortiz. He wanted to go to 154 pounds. Why is he not there? I don't know the true answer to this question, but I am disappointed that Boots, for whatever reason, and his team have decided not to take this fight against Virgil Ortiz.
Well, he wanted to. This is at light middleweight, presumably, yeah.
This is at light middleweight. He obviously
He wanted a
147 IBF
welterweight fight.
champion.
That's what it all came down to.
But after his last fight, Gareth, he said to Chris Mannix, "Yep, next I want to go to 154." He said it.
He's changed his mind. He's clearly changed his mind. That's what I understand was behind it, and that Virgil Ortiz can't make welterweight anymore.
No.
And they weren't going to do a catch weight, so the fight fell apart. I mean, I think Eddie Hearn's spoken about it a little bit.
He did. He has.
You know, he's admitted that fight's still doable, but not for now.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is.
Yes, it's a shame.
50 odd fights between them undefeated as well.
It's crazy, and
but
that's crazy.
And I'm just as happy with Ortiz and Madrimov because
I think Madrimov's a harder fight for Ortiz.
It may end up being, because look at what Madrimov was capable of doing against Terence Crawford. He pushed him to the wire, and he'll push Virgil Ortiz to the wire as well.
Yeah, but Beterbiev Bivol turning it around this quick needs to be applauded. The fight was somewhat controversial, right? Some people said Bivol might have nicked it. Some said, but okay, let's do it again then. And let's do it again for all the belts. And are you guys ready to go into training camp straight away? Yes, we are. Okay, let's go. I mean, that has to be applauded because sometimes, as we know in boxing, these rematches take a while. One of the belts, one of the sanctioning bodies said, okay, we're taking a belt away. But no, we're going straight to it. And I'm so happy it's undisputed. And I just wonder who that favors, turning it around that quick. Does it favor Bivol because he maybe doesn't have to cut as much weight? Does it favor Beterbiev because the knee's a lot better now, maybe? I'm not quite sure. You're nodding. You think it favors Beterbiev?
Well, I remember your outrage at the result, to be honest.
That's just because I've got a Bivol poster behind me. That's what it is.
Listen, I picked Bivol to win, but I was pleased for Beterbiev, and I had Beterbiev winning. People were very outraged. It was that weird expression in boxing that we have. It was what you liked. And that's fine because it's a subjective sport, and it always will be. I think it'll be a very close fight again. I think Bivol will be more active early and late in the rounds. I think it's going to be even closer this time. And I think Bivol will nick it. And I think they'll fight again in 6 months. It suits Beterbiev. He's 38. I think they'll fight 6 months apart. If they go to a draw, or Bivol wins this one, it's going to be a close fight again. Or Bivol wins this one, I think we'll get it again in September, October, the trilogy.
Wow. All right, look, that's the main event, co-main event. And there was some questions about what would be main and what would be co-main here, but they've chosen the right one. Obviously, it had to be Beterbiev Bivol co-main, Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker. And look, I mean, even before this fight plays out, Daniel Dubois' 18-month run of Usyk, Miller, Hrgovic, AJ, Parker is frightening. That's an incredible run from Daniel Dubois, especially considering, 2 years ago he was wrote off, right, as maybe not having the kahunas to really compete at the top level, and he's proven that he does. And this is a tough fight. Again, this is another 60-40, 50-50 fight. It's a tough one to pick this. And you've got to applaud both. Daniel could have looked at that top 15 and picked anyone. He's picked arguably the toughest guy in there and said, okay, let him. I want to fight him. Most fighters talk about it. Daniel Dubois is showing that he's all about it.
Well, the great thing as well, to put overarchingly over the heavyweight division, in the space of 2 months, we've got 1 and 2 fighting. We've got 3 and 4 fighting. We arguably got 5 and 6 fighting.
Yeah.
With because you could make a case for Agit Kabayel being number.
You could say that's 5 and 6.
So that's the beauty of this moment with Saudi Arabia and Riyadh season investment in heavyweight boxing, because the truculence in the past of people not wanting to get involved and make the fights quickly, like you say about Beterbiev and Bivol, is that the available money for these top level fighters to earn at the moment means that it's a tick, tick, tick for them. There's no point waiting around. What I applaud in this scenario is Kabayel taking a very difficult fight against Zhang. And I think the winner is in place to fight the winner of the IBF. I think that's right.
I think the winner
WBC, sorry.
WBC, yeah, WBC.
WBC. So it keeps all the sanctioning bodies moving. I think you have to applaud Daniel Dubois for taking the fight with Joseph Parker, because this is a voluntary defence now, remember? So he could have gone for someone simpler. There were talks of EubankJrBenn, who I think is now going to fight Martin Bakole by the look of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly being talked about. Maybe that's in Africa, by the way. Maybe that's in the Congo, which would be amazing. Maybe that's a Riyadh season-sponsored event in Africa. Because I think we'll get them. I think we'll get them in Asia, and I think we'll get them in Africa oncoming. I think this is a dangerous fight for Daniel Dubois, because Joseph Parker looks resurgent. But my heart is saying Joseph Parker. Don Charles might not like this again. My heart is saying, my head is saying Daniel Dubois, but my heart is saying Joseph Parker, because I'd love him to regain the world title. But what a fight. And this fight, if it goes beyond 6, becomes anybody's, in my view.
Yeah.
How do you see it, Eddie?
It's a
difficult one, isn't it? You have to really think about the silhouettes moving.
Honestly, it's such a tough one to call. It really is.
Because Dubois so dangerous at the moment.
So fast, so aggressive.
So clever with Andy Lee and his game plans. Yeah. And he's bigger.
I actually think that could be a bit of a hindrance. I think I prefer a bit of a smaller Parker to be light on his feet. Like, Parker was always a bit faster than a lot of the heavyweights because he was around the 250 mark. Now, as you say, we've seen him recently and he's around 270, 280. So hopefully he does come down, not too much, maybe still be the bigger guy on the night, but play the speed game as well, because Daniel's so fast. I was actually surprised how fast Daniel was against AJ. So intriguing. I think I edge ever so slightly to Dubois.
I agree.
51-49, maybe honestly that close. But again, fantastic fight, and we're happy for it. All right, we've been looking for a new star in British boxing, right? All the old guard are coming to the end, and Hamza Shiraz could be that guy. Looks good, talks well. His fights are always entertaining.
Lives the life.
Yeah, lives the life, which is super important. And now he gets his chance, right? I mean, this is it. Carlos Adama's world title fight. Are you ready? This is a step up from Tyler Denny and Amo Williams. I think he is. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Carlos Adama's. The trouble is, there's so many trumpets sounding every time Hamza Shiraz walks down a purple carpet in Riyadh as an ambassador of the Riyadh season, that there's this psychological shift to overlook anyone he was in against. Everyone said we know a lot about Yanibek Alim-Kanuli, one of the other middleweight champions, and we know that he's a very dangerous fighter, and he's probably the hardest guy to fight in the division at the moment. We know that Carlos Adames is very slick, very good boxer. But what Hamza has is power at the elite level. And that power is what makes everyone around him so confident. He's going to be the house favourite. He may not be the favourite with the bookies. This is a real test for him. He's ready for it. And it's a fight I cannot wait to see. And I think he just does it. I just think late in the fight, he's done it. You mentioned the Amo Williams fight there. That was the acid test for me.
Yeah.
He went through a difficult 2 rounds, second and third round, where he was caught. He was in that tunnel of pain, but he knew the way to get out of the trench. And I think he's got it. I just think he's got it. And he's a giant in the weight division. And he'll be brilliant in the super middleweight division when he goes up there. He may even make it to cruiserweight, by the time he's in his early 30s.
He's a big guy.
He's
a big guy, and I'm with you. I think he takes it as well. I think he's going to have to come through a couple of tough times, but I think coming through tough times against Amo Williams has almost prepared him. Like, okay, this is what it's like when we step up a couple of levels. So I'm excited. And let's also not forget, as we wrap this up, that we do have a pound-for-pound American superstar on the fight card as well, young Shakur Stevenson, who takes on the even younger Floyd Schofield, who, look, I mean, some people might say Floyd's not ready, and I agree. Maybe he isn't ready, but he's asked for the fight. He's sold it. His dad's obviously clearly said, we want this fight. They've gone to Oscar and said, Oscar, okay, I know you have your plan for Floyd, but let us take this fight. Win or lose, we'll learn from it. We'll make a lot of money from it. I do feel sorry for Joe Cordina, who, was scheduled to fight Shakur before Shakur got injured. But unfortunately, this is the sport of boxing. And Floyd Floyd's talked himself into the fight. And sometimes maybe that's what you've got to do. And that's maybe what Joe hasn't done. So yeah, two young, brash Americans are going to go at it. And that then brings in the American market as well.
The only people in my view at the moment that give Shakur a difficult time in the ring are Gervonta Davis, and then obviously stepping up a weight slightly is Tio Lopez and Ryan Garcia. You know, maybe Devin Haney as well.
Maybe, yeah,
yeah. Devin out of that, but I think anyone else bar those guys, and he's moving to 140 against those. That four. Well, I want to see him in against all of them, by the way, and I think we should, and hopefully we do. I don't think anyone else gives him trouble. I don't think William Zepeda would have given him trouble either.
No, agreed. So yeah,
because he was slated obviously to fight Zepeda.
He was. Zepeda obviously injured in that Latino fight card after his fight against Tevin Farmer. So yeah, they've been looking for an opponent for Shakur, and then it's now for Isco. Quick one on Joe Cordina. Is he not unlucky? I mean, again, he was gonna fight. Let's not forget, he was gonna fight Shakur Stevenson on the undercard of Beterbiev Bivol. It was Shakur that got injured. Joe's not had a fight since. He's a former world champion. I know he's coming off a defeat, but former world champion in the weight class below. Like, how has he not just been slotted straight back into it? I'm a bit confused.
If he was ready, Ade, he would have been in there. Listen, I know who put the card together. His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, obviously, George Warren, Eddie Hearn, and Spencer Brown. They were the instrumental figures in putting this card together. They'll have had their reasons for not putting Joe in there. Maybe he's not ready. And that's what I can imagine it is. But I know that Eddie is... Eddie did a lot for Joe Cordina. That ship sailed right now, but Joe Cordina will be back in my view. He'll be back at some point. He's clearly just not ready at the moment.
Yeah, hopefully he is. Hopefully he is back because time's not on his side. He looks like a young kid, but he's certainly not that anymore, is he? So look, we'll see what happens with Joe Cordina. All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Next up, we'll talk about what next for Conor Benn. More movement in the Conor Benn saga, and we're going to hear from his trainer, Tony Sims, as well. All right, welcome back. You're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth Davies. All right, let's talk Conor Benn, the British welterweight who hasn't fought in Britain since, my brain says, April 2022. It's been a very, very long time. Obviously, was scheduled to fight Chris Eubank Jr. October of 2022. We all know what happened. We're not going to go over old ground, but we do need to revisit the situation slightly because there has been movement when it comes to Conor Benn's situation about fighting in Britain. He was and is allowed to do so now because the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD have decided not to appeal the decision, which allowed him to fight, which was brought to the fore last week, Gareth. Yeah. Let's, if we can, let's start from the beginning with regards to him being allowed and UKAD and British Boxing Board of Control not appealing that decision to allow him to fight. Can you fill in the gaps for us a bit?
So obviously the NADP lifted the suspension, the National Anti-Doping Panel, which allowed UKAD to appeal. This is the second time this has happened. Allowed UKAD to appeal within 21 days. They didn't. And my understanding is the Boxing Board of Control and UKAD were unilateral in that. The only people that can still appeal against the lifting of the suspension of Conor Benn is the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, who are the world force for setting the standard of which drugs are banned by for the Olympic competition downwards. And you know, at times in the past they banned coffee and all sorts, believe it or not, as a body. So WADA can still appeal. Bless you, Ade Oladipo.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So they can still appeal, but my understanding is that Benn's lawyers and Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn will meet the board very soon to apply for a license.
And there won't be any restriction or any blockage on that license?
Stand in the way of it because he's been. Look, there probably will be complaints that he fought twice in Texas during that, or he fought twice in America during that time under a Texas license. Eddie's argument was all. I don't think that should be permissible when someone's suspended, in my view. I think there should be unilateral, homogenous
Agreed.
agreements with every commission in the world if someone's on a ban and proving their innocence or their guilt or whatever it is. So I don't agree with that. But obviously, Eddie Hearn's argument with Conor was, you've got no idea about his legal bills here, and you've got no idea about how he's got to survive. So they had 2 fights so he could tick over and earn a little bit of money. They are looking at 2 massive fights next year. I know they're throwing out the Mario Barrios welterweight WBC title, I think it is. Obviously,
it is. Yes, it is.
Texas on the undercard of Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. That's a very good fight that they fancy. But my understanding, even though Frank Smith has come out in the last few days, Eddie Hearn's CEO, and said that Chris Eubank's proving difficult in the negotiations. He's always difficult in negotiations. That is historic. That everyone always says that. I do think that fight will go ahead next year. I think it'll be a 2-fight deal. And my understanding is that it will be Chris Eubank Jr. and it will be 2 big stadiums in the UK, April and October.
Okay, cool. That's interesting, and that hopefully for anyone listening clears up this situation of what's going on with Conor Benn, UCAD, NADP, British Boxing Board of Control, etc., etc. So thank you very much, Gareth. Let's, as you said, you've got into it now. Let's continue the conversation of what next for Conor Benn, because I did speak to someone from Chris Eubank Jr.'s team the other day, and I said, look, okay, what's happening here? And they basically said, okay, it's all systems go with Erislandy Lara. Who's the WBA middleweight champion. They're like, okay, that's going to happen. Lara's going to come over here. First quarter of 2025, it's going to be Lara versus Eubank, middleweight title fight, which a lot of people, to be fair, have been screaming for Chris to have. Have a world title fight, Chris. And it looks like Chris wants to go that route. Now, I don't know if that's just Chris, or again, as you say, playing hardball when it comes to negotiations, almost saying to Conor, look, I've got a world title fight, so take it or leave it. I don't know if it's that, but again, I spoke to someone who's really close to the team, and they're like, no. He's going to fight Lara and not Conor. I mean, which is crazy, if I'm honest with you. I mean, I like the idea of him having a world title fight, but we've been waiting for 2 years for this fight. If Conor's cleared, let's just get it on and move on, please.
Completely agree. I mean, I know, like you, it might not be the same people, but I've spoken in the background to Chris Eubank's team, and I know that there have been chats about Canelo, about Yanibek Alim Kanuli, about Carlos Adames, and about Erislandy Lara, but they didn't mention Conor Benn.
They mentioned Conor Benn. Yeah.
They didn't mention it because obviously he's been under jurisdiction and all the matters that are involved are sub judice, and these guys have said things to each other. But we did get the 2 of them together in Riyadh in October, and it did look like it was igniting the contest. And Conor was invited over to get there in the face of Chris Eubank. Like you say, it always surprises me that Chris doesn't want to fight Conor because there's so many things in his favour in that fight. And they're trying to get the 2 fathers in the corners to work the corners, by the way, as well. So, it's a Netflix spectacular in my view, let alone on DAZN and everything else. But, and a British event as well, which we kind of may look at next year. We may well get Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury if Fury wins, by the way. In the interim, in my view, before we get the trilogy with the Usyk and Fury, if Fury wins on December the 21st.
All right, let's hear from a man that's in the know when it comes to what's going on with Conor Benn. His long-term trainer, Tony Sims. Gareth called up with Tony last weekend. This is what Tony had to say with regards to what next for Conor Benn.
Been through a hell of a lot. He's been through a lot of media, and I'm just pleased that he's got his licence back and he's able to fight. He's never not been out of the gym, which has been a difficult thing, to keep yourself motivated, to keep training intense, and he's kept himself in shape. He obviously only boxed in February in Vegas, so it's not that long ago that he boxed, but he's kept himself in great condition, and he's just jumping at the bit to really get back into the ring, and that's where he likes being. And I think, if anything, sometimes they say bad publicity is good publicity. In anything, he's probably bigger name now than he's ever been. You know, and the fight that obviously everybody wants to see is the Benn Eubank, which was nearly made, but I believe will be made now. And I believe that fight will go on hopefully early next year.
Tony Sims there, great trainer, great speaker as well. Doesn't really like to speak so much, so well done, Gareth, getting a few words out of him. He seems adamant that it will be Chris next. And look, I mean, he's privy to the conversations that are going on behind the scenes more than most, right? And look, as much as I do want to see Chris fight for a world title, I also want to see this fight as well, because it's been in the making for so long now. And as you said, we were all in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. They went nose to nose. Chris jumped in the ring. I mean, prior to that, Chris kind of jumped on, Conor jumped on Chris when he saw him in the lobby of a hotel. So they've been building this. Was it weigh-in day? Yeah. So let's just make the fight. Go.
Well, Conor's been out for 30 months. So, you know, I know he's fought twice in America, but he's really been out of the picture here for 30 months. And I agree with you. Let's have the fight. Some people don't agree with it. The jump from welterweight to middleweight's too much. Maybe they're arguing over the weight. Conor's got to get in there with him at middleweight, in my view. And he's had two light middleweight fights. He's not a little guy. He's a little bit smaller than Chris. Chris has got to boil down to 160, which is enough for him at his age, mid-30s now. So yeah, I'm with you. Really want to see the fight, and it will be big in the UK. It's a really, really big fight for us in the UK.
And that's what we need as well. Look, I mean, again, these Riyadh season cards have been absolutely fantastic, and they've been the injection the sport needs, but we do need to see some real big juicy fights over here in the UK.
Works here. It doesn't work anywhere else.
Yeah, and exactly. And it does the stadium, as you say. There are a few stadiums where this can certainly fill, and I'm just looking and thinking about that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and 60,000 people packed in there for it. It's got to happen, please. All right, you're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Next up, we're going to take a look ahead to our live coverage this weekend as we bring you the latest installment of the Magnificent Seven. Welcome back to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, the great Gareth A. Davies. All right, let's talk about the fight card that we've got for you this Saturday live on talkSPORT. It is the Magnificent Seven card. Remember, it is taking place at Wembley Arena. Main event, Brad Pauls versus Denzel Bentley. We've been talking about the middleweights. These are two very, very good middleweights as well. Brad Pauls, who beat Nathan Heaney for the British title, and Denzel Bentley, who's been on a decent run as well of recent. So this is a really good main event. Some notable fights in the undercard. A couple of big boys. Solomon Dakers takes on David Adeleye, and we see Lawrence Okoli's first fight as a heavyweight. He takes on Hussein Muhammad. Quite a lot to get stuck into here. Let's quickly, main event, Brad Pauls versus Denzel Bentley. Again, two guys that are just below, you know, the very best of British, if you like. And I put Hamza Shiraz in there, Chris Eubank Jr. in that. But two guys that I think with a win kind of catapult themselves into the conversations, at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, the weird thing about this scenario is that Pauls has beaten Nathan Heaney. Nathan Heaney's beaten Denzel Bentley, and Denzel Bentley. Hang on, I mean, wait. A beats B, B beats C, C beats A. Nathan Heaney has beaten Denzel Bentley.
Yes.
Pauls has beaten Nathan Heaney.
Yes.
Maybe twice, but the first one I thought Nathan won just. And now Denzel Bentley goes in as the favourite against Brad Pauls, but maybe he shouldn't be.
That's the scenario. Yes, that's exactly it.
But styles make fights, don't they?
Yeah.
But what we also have seen is Denzel Bentley very good against the hitherto mentioned Yanibek Alim Kanuli got going late in the fight. And maybe Alim Kanuli coasted to victory in that event. But Denzel really pushed him in Vegas and showed that he's got world's class in him. This is a really good fight. Brad Pauls spoke to him at the weekend, by the way, on Fight Night with Adam Catterall. And he really fancies this. He fancies this as his moment to try and step up to world level and get the winner of this is going to get a world title shot, according to Warren. It might even be a Hamza Shiraz. You don't know if Hamza wins in February. So it's a big fight for both men. We talked about the history of Cornish fighters as well. Len Harvey, I've got to mention this again. Len Harvey, the great Len Harvey, 80, 90 years ago, who fought and won titles from flyweight to heavyweight. Eat your heart out, Sonny Edwards.
Crazy. That actually makes no sense. That makes no sense. Yeah.
It just does not make any logical sense. But listen, if Sonny Edwards was in that time, he'd have probably fought a heavyweight as well, because he'd had it. Just to give him another mention on today's show, given that he's retired. Really good main event. Brad Pauls will give everything. Denzel Bentley has got something to prove. He's got the bit between his teeth. And I think it's going to be a great main event. Obviously, it's on talkSPORT Live, so that'll augment it in lots of ways. Loads of good fights to be interested in. The one that interests me, obviously, Ade, is Solomon Dakers and David Adelaide.
Yeah.
It's a crossroads fight for both of them for different reasons.
Agreed.
And you'll have views on that.
Agreed. It's a good heavyweight fight. And for me, it's a must win for David Adelaide. I think it's one thing losing to Fabio Wardley. That's fine, because Fabio now all of a sudden has gone on to become a top 15 heavyweight. I don't think, especially with the way in which he, kind of walks chest high around David Adelaide, that he'll be able to recover mentally from losing to Solomon Dakers. It'll be a difficult defeat to take. And then you look at the heavyweight scene, Johnny Fisher's around, Moses Tatalma. He kind of wants to be in that mix.
Yeah.
So he has to look good and win. And I think he will. I think Solomon Dakers starts slow. Solomon Dakers is probably the better boxer of the two, but I think
Correct.
Adelaide's got that kind of killer instinct, and I think he's going to go for the kill. And then obviously Okoli, who Frank just signed, moving up to heavyweight, who's a big boy, but all of a sudden he's normal sized. So all those kind of extra attributes, size and reach, they've all gone. So it'll be interesting to see what else he can add to his armor under Joe Gallagher to really navigate the heavyweight scene. But look, some big fights for him in the heavyweight scene as well. So look, good luck to him. And again, we'll be covering that fight card for you on Saturday night. I think it might be myself. I'm not quite sure, in the studios. Now that Gareth's told me he's out, I could be in, but we'll see. We'll see. Very quickly, I just want to mention one young kid who I promised I was going to mention.
Yeah, please.
Taylor Bevan, who fought on the undercard of, obviously, Sonny Edwards versus Galal Yafai, made his debut, got a knockout over Greg O'Neill. I saw him and his trainer team and his management team sort of pre and post fight, and they wanted to come on the show. And I said, look, we'll try and get you on. We'll try and get you on. But obviously that didn't happen. So I want to mention him out. Taylor Bevan, fantastic win. Good luck to him in his career. Hopefully we do get him into the studio sometime soon. I know Gareth's always wants to talk to upcoming fighters, because that's how you follow their journey. You get them when they've had 1 or 2 fights, and then when they've had 15, they respect and never forget you. So hopefully we'll get Taylor Bevan in the studio, but congratulations to him and his team. All right, Gareth, great show as always.
Absolutely. It was a great show. It's always great fun. It takes 10 minutes to do an hour in my head with you.
It's easy, isn't it?
The commentary team, by the way, on Saturday night is John Raw, Spencer Oliver, Nathan Heaney, and Duke McKenzie alongside Adam Catterall.
Oh, Nathan Heaney.
You get your oar in there, I reckon they'll squeeze you in as well. Can I just mention 2 young fighters, or a young fighter?
Go on. Might as well. Go on.
2. Alois Jr. on Saturday night.
Big boy.
Second in the Brazilinator in the office at talkSPORT in the punch machine. And Royston Barney Smith, who for me is a traveling Mexican. Traveler Mexican style fighter.
Oh, hello.
Andres Navarrete.
So wait, he takes on a real Mexican.
He takes on I think he's Mexican, Andres Navarrete.
Navarrete, yeah, certainly that's her name. Yeah.
But I watch out for Alois Jr. Wow, has he got some power at cruiserweight? And he's still only 20, I think.
He has. I watched his last fight and he did kind of tire towards the end. So let's hope the gas tank, because he's very muscular. So let's hope the gas tank's been improved a little bit. But look, again, 2 fighters on this card, which shows how good the fight card is. All right. You've been listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Remember, if you've missed any of the show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back next week. Enjoy Dubai, Gareth, and I'll catch you in Saudi.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.